This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is Sapan Guy, the CCO of Sovereign Metals, as the company announced they will immediately commence a pilot mining and land rehabilitation program as part of the optimization study at Kasiya, the rutile and graphite project in Malawi. Well, thank you very much for your time as always, Sapan. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Looking forward to telling your viewers and listeners all about what we're doing now.
Well, excellent. Well, it was a good RNS, lots of detail in there. Looks like a lot of tangible things are going to be happening, a lot of meat being put on the bones. So, I mean, you've initiated this pilot mining and land rehabilitation program. So has this started? Is this effectively happening right now? It's go from now?
Yes, so we received our final approvals yesterday. And we've kicked off as of this morning. So we are now in what we call the pilot phase. So that's the phase in between a PFS and a DFS where, these big tier one world-class assets get tested in the real world.
Excellent. And I noticed a comment from the managing director there. He said, this covers the full spectrum of engineering and design, logistics, materials handling, water and environmental approvals, stakeholder engagement, livelihood restorations, tailing management, and land rehabilitation. So, I mean, in effect, it's this a mini production operation to perhaps satisfy yourselves, satisfy Rio, of course, you're a 15% shareholder in the company here, and indeed the Malawian government, that you can do this, that you're responsible operators, and demonstrate the economic viability.
Yeah, very much so. Look, from everything we've learned since we discovered Kasiya in 2019, we've got to a position now where we've got a team and we've got a partner where we can actually go ahead and on a relatively small scale, basically mine about 150,000 bench cubic meters of ore within an area that is essentially ore reserves. We'll be going down to about 20 meters. After 20 meters, we start hitting hard rock. Remember, Kasiya is all about the soft, friable, free dig stuff on top. That's where the rutile sits. That's where the graphite sits. We're not interested in hard rock mining. So we'll be using different combinations and permutations of excavating the material, of processing the material, of essentially backfilling the material from where it came, understanding how we handle the tailings in the best fashion and in the most in a way that basically makes us good stakeholders of using that land and rehabilitating that land to basically a quality of as we found it, if not better.
Okay, yeah, okay. And you mentioned that this will it comes in between the PFS and the DFS. Is that a normal order of sort of service that you would do a pilot in between, or is this something a little bit different for Sovereign?
Look, I think this is a huge deposit, right? So the lessons we learn over the course of the coming 6 months of the pilot phase, they're going to have to withstand the test of time over what we've deemed an initial mine life of 25 years. That's quarter of a century of mining. Now, you can either do a whole bunch of studies and a whole bunch of tests at a lab level and then hope for the best when you start continuously operating at a more commercial scale, or you can test it out at a commercial scale as we're doing, and get the real answers and the solutions and essentially optimize the way we would operate this mine going forwards. So with these large scale world class mines, you've got to get it right the first time, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
Good stuff, and it's nice to hear 6 months. That's not too long to wait to see this thing, prove itself up. And I wonder if we can just have a look at one of the graphics that was put out in the RNS today, which really does show, I think, how this pilot will come together. But if we can talk perhaps about some of the timelines, if you can, about some of the key milestones, because you've got, of course, the construction of the pilot scale open pit, which is close to the maximum depth at the current reserves of 20 metres, scale up of the existing in-country processing capability, optimizing tailings management and storage designs, optimizing land rehabilitation and soil restoration and selection of revegetation species, and really demonstrating that rehabilitation element to the project here. So could you perhaps take us through this graphic, some of the key areas to it, and if you can, when the sort of the timelines and the key milestones that can be achieved as you build this pilot plant?
Sure. So right now we've essentially drilled out 8 boreholes. Those 8 boreholes will provide water to this pilot site. That water will be stored in the water storage pond that you see there. That water will be used for both the hydro mining as well as some of the on-site processing that we'll do of the ore. Essentially the brown bit, the easiest way to look at this is the brown bit will be the test pit. That's about 120 by 110 meters. You're right, we're going down to only about 20 meters there. We'll start both a hydraulic mining and some forms of dry mining around that. We'll keep the market informed in terms of the construction phase of this project, kind of the big items that are on the way. I think a few weeks ago we mentioned, or we announced that we had procured a spiral concentrator, so that'll start making its way up as part of the overall strategy for Sovereign. But essentially, looking at this graphic and the pit itself, importantly, we'll have 4 stockpiles. We'll be backfilling and regrading the mined area to make it look and essentially be exactly as it was, minus the rutile and the graphite that we've essentially extracted. And very importantly is the rehabilitation demonstration. So we've got the rehab pits at the top in green. We will use different types of soil work, revegetation work, to best understand how we can actually optimize that material to put back into the pits. So, in terms of livelihood restoration for anyone who's on this land currently, where I think I've mentioned that we want as well as today, if not better, quality of soil and land for them to come back on.
Yeah, I'm definitely picking up that the rehabilitation and the demonstration of the different approaches there is a key part of this pilot study. Is that something that the government are insisting on, or is it just something that is almost has to be done today by all stakeholders involved?
Absolutely. Look, you can't get a true mining operation up and running in any country without looking after the local stakeholders and having the government on side. It's just not going to happen. We've seen plenty of cases where mining companies have probably rushed into cash flow without looking at essentially restoring livelihoods, looking at rehabilitation. And when you're 200 square kilometers of mineralized zone, it's really important that you get that stuff right. We're not one of these pits that will dig a big hole and then maybe in 30 years' time it's someone else's problem to restore the land. We want to continuously rehabilitate the land and progressively give it back to the landholders, which means that at some of these pits that we envisage at Kasiya, we're talking 4, 5, 6 years before we hand it back to the local farmers or whoever requests the land at that point.
Okay, good. And it's good to see as well that you were saying that the land would be effectively better, more fertile even. So that's a really significant point, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're doing some soil baseline work on that. It almost comes hand in hand with some of the other work we're doing on the ground in terms of our conservation farming initiatives, where we're already seeing, just training local farmers in certain conservation farming techniques have yielded or will yield around 3 times higher maize production than what they expect. or what they have expected in the past.
Nice. Good. Nice. Well, I'm glad to see that. That's good to see. And you say that you'll update the market on key milestones as and when they happen. So it sounds like it'll be a fairly active 6 months going through the summer here, keep everything updated on what's going on. Are you funded to go through this 6 months of this pilot program?
So we have the question is yes. The answer is yes. We're basically funded with 36 million Australian dollars on the balance sheet. We have a strategic investor in the form of Rio Tinto, who own 15% of the company. Rio Tinto have an option which expires in the next 2 months from now. And if they were to exercise that option, that would bring in another 18 million Australian dollars. So we're pretty good to go.
Okay, good. And are you anticipating any revenues? Or could you sell any of the material during this pilot process, or is it more about really doing the test for the DFS? But also, I notice you will have samples to give to potential offtake partners, potential future customers.
Yeah, this isn't a commercial. This won't be a commercial pitch, right? This is very much to better understand. Think of it as an experiment. We're test driving the resource here, basically, and we're test driving our team to continuously, yes, come up with rutile and graphite concentrate, but that concentrate will not be sold. We're not looking at a little tiny stream of revenue. What we're going to be doing with those concentrates is providing them in labs for further test work. We'll be using them with providing them to off-takers and users, as you said, and really understanding what essentially those goods that Sovereign Metals will be producing one day. Who's interested in them and why.
Excellent, good. And after this comes the DFS, but from this pilot test here, would you be looking to demonstrate perhaps some of those PFS numbers? So that's the 222,000 tonnes of rutile production, 244,000 tonnes of graphite, the NPV of 1.6 billion, life of mine, as you say, of 25 years, and the EBITDA of 145 million per annum.
Yeah, so remember those numbers, as good as they are, they were Sovereign standalone numbers. Now that we've got a new team on board that has built, umpteen mines across Africa, we've got Rio Tinto and their involvement on some of the technical aspects. We're really honing in on those numbers and trying to understand where we can perhaps better some of those numbers, which numbers need a little bit more work doing for us to confidently stand by them. And yes, this pilot phase is going to essentially help us in all of that. What we learn from the pilot phase will feed into the methodology within the DFS. So it all, you can see the pilot phase as a bridge between the PFS and the DFS.
Excellent. And just a final question, Sapan, I picked up from the RNS as well. You mentioned it earlier that this is all about communication as well with the key stakeholders and serving as an educational opportunity for various stakeholders in the project. And you said you'll keep us updated, or the market updated, over the next 6 months of key milestones. But also you plan to undertake a series of stakeholder visits and consultations. So could you perhaps tell us a bit more about how you plan to communicate the viability of this project?
Yeah, sure. Look, so as we build out the pilot phase and the pilot mining and the rehab, we're trying our best to make sure that, at least in terms of media content, that we keep everyone informed on at least a weekly basis of what's going on. We'll let the market, potential investors, as well as stakeholders, understand, exactly what are we doing on the ground and why we're doing it. So you'll hear a lot more about all of that over the coming days and weeks.
Excellent. Well, thank you, as always, for your time today. Sapan Ghai, the CCO of Sovereign Metals. And I'm sure we'll be speaking a fair bit at keeping us entertained throughout the summer.
Thank you very much indeed.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.